Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you for having me here and to talk about our journey and what we've done with RPA. So, I've been to several of these events before, and people talk about robotic process automation, you know, how it's the next best thing, how it's disrupting the industry. You know, it's new, it's shiny, and it's great. But automation isn't really that new. So I wanted to start off with a kind of an interesting fact, and I like history. So I did some Googling. So around 285 to 222 BC, a Greek inventor called Eusebius invented the water clock, and this is believed to be the first man-made automated device. Now, caveat time, I did research this on Google, so you know I can't sort of verify its accuracy, but it's still safe to say that automation has been around for a very long time. It certainly isn't new. However, over time, it's been refined upon, it's been improved upon. Various leaps and bounds, they led us to the Industrial Revolution, where automation changed the face of manufacturing forever. And more recently, in our lifetimes, the computer revolution changed the way that we do business, enabling us to work and communicate faster, though not necessarily more efficiently. So whilst we can move faster, if we're not efficient, then we're just faster at being less efficient. Our inefficiencies are being amplified. So therefore, the approach, it has to be right. So where do we come into this? Well, to give clarity to why we made the decision that we made, I think it's prudent to give you a bit of our shared history. Like I said, I like history. So I've personally worked in IT for about 18 years, done various roles, but the last 8 years or so, I've specialised in process automation. And automation is great. You know, work gets done and you don't have to lift a finger. You know, sleeping on the job can now be a thing. Not quite. A lot of effort goes into automating a process, requires a specialist skill set, takes time, takes money, but the result is worth the journey if the right process is automated. Problem is process automation engineers are not that common. Well, that's great for me, but not so good for the businesses who need them. I mean, Experian have been automating for many years anyway, leveraging systems such as mainframe. But we also recognise that process automation is key to our ongoing success. But with so many opportunities, you know, how can we tackle this on a large scale if available resource is limited? And here's another challenge based on my time as a process automation engineer. You know, I automate processes for other people. I understand automation, how it works, etc., but I don't necessarily understand the process or the systems I'm automating against. The person who knows the process and does the job knows the process, they know the job, but they don't know automation. So if you imagine these guys up here, they're playing this game where they're blowing out a candle whilst blindfolded. You know, imagine somebody shouting instructions to them. You know, up a bit, left a bit, right a bit, down a bit. You know, it could go on and on before you get the result, or the desired result, which is to blow out the candle. Why don't we just take the blindfold off? Surely that's going to be easier. And this is analogous to how I feel about automating processes for other people. We each have our own piece of the puzzle, but without always understanding the other person's piece, we still have to work together to achieve a result. It works, but it's time consuming. What if we could somehow get the person who knows the process and knows the systems that they're working with to perform the automation themselves? should we take the blindfold off? So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Robotic Process Automation. Okay, so it's not a secret, and most of us here already know what it is. But what sets RPA apart from other solutions that are out there? There's the obvious things, like, for one, you can see the automation taking place. You know, it's wonderful watching the screen bounce around while some invisible entity tirelessly toils away. No holidays, no weekends, no sitting in meetings. It just does the work repeatedly and accurately, assuming, of course, that it's been configured correctly. And because you can see what it's doing, it's easy to relate to, it's easy to understand. By the way, I really like this picture, because I kind of think that what they're drawing on the board looks a little bit like the Automation Anywhere logo. But it also symbolises that you can do a piece of work once and have your robots replicate that and build up at scale. But what I also like about RPA is if you have the right tool, you don't have to be a technical whiz or a specialist to use it. Instead of an automation engineer, the business user, i.e. the subject matter expert, who's familiar with the process, can automate it themselves. It's a very ambitious target, but it's one that we wanted to explore. So after a really long proof of concept, we found Automation Anywhere for us was the right fit. It was an intuitive and easy to understand platform that we could teach our business users to use. The interface is quite easy. You can configure through drag and drop, and you can code without actually having to type code. You've got sort of context menus that you can move about. So we could give this tool to our business users. But we operate in a highly regulated industry. There's no room for error. You know, certain mistakes could have a huge impact, and that's just not acceptable. So, am I contradicting myself? You know, on one hand, I'm saying let's give this really powerful tool to our business users, and then on the other hand, I'm saying there's no room for error. You know, mistakes are not tolerated, yet we're giving a powerful tool to inexperienced users. You know, surely that's a recipe for disaster. But the answer to our problem is still the same. We don't have enough automation engineers to meet demand. The ones we do have don't have enough understanding of every business's units, nuances and processes. The people who do have this information are not automation experts. And if we go down the path of letting business users automate for themselves, you know, surely it raises concerns. You know, are they automating the right processes? What if they make mistakes in configuring the robots? You know, who's going to validate, version and test these processes properly? How can we be sure that the processes are created in an efficient, secure and robust manner? You know, are we logging and handling errors correctly? The list, it goes on and on and on. Also, think, you know, a single mistake with a robot can be repeated many times very quickly. You know, one mistake can quickly become 1,000. And who's going to look after the infrastructure? Who's setting the standards, the governance, etc.? These guys, the Centre of Excellence. So we set up in Experian our RPA Centre of Excellence to support the Experian business. Now, our business users are still driving RPA development in their respective areas. Each have at least one subject matter expert who's been trained to use the tool. And they use methods such as Lean Six Sigma and Kaizen to find and scope and create new opportunities for automation. They work semi-independently for their business area, but with a dotted line into the centre of excellence. And I say semi-independently because the COE team, the Centre of Excellence, we underpin RPA and Experian. We act as coaches, we manage the infrastructure, we define the governance and standards. We ensure that the robots that come through us are secure and stable. But the business users still lead their development. We're there as the Centre of Excellence to make sure that it's done properly. So our goal is to upskill and educate developers. Where they lack knowledge and experience, we coach, we mentor, we put in the time and effort to allow that person to become as self-sufficient as possible, working with them on their processes. So we've also created a central hub that's abundant with knowledge, where SME developers can go for information. We've created templates in Automation Anywhere that handle common functions so we can just lift and drop. We've created a lifecycle document that users use to ensure that they're automating in the right manner. We also have one-on-ones with them. We check through their code, and we often play devil's advocate to make sure that they're making the right decisions. And before anything goes into production, we analyse, we question, we check, we test, and we test. So from the Centre of Excellence, we're able to ensure that consistency and standards are followed right across the Experian business. So I've talked about why, and I've talked about how, and it sounds great in theory, but what's the reality like? What's it really like in practice? Well, we started very small. We wanted to test the water. So the RPA Centre of Excellence was originally one person. And as such, the development was very, very slow. With that though, we had some great successes. And this proved early on to Experian the power of robotic process automation and Automation Anywhere. In recent months though, we've grown our Centre of Excellence to 4 developer coaches who support our growing SME developer pool. So it's quite important to remember that our efforts have only just started taking off in the last couple of months. Yet despite this, the robots have done the equivalent work of 16 people already since we introduced them. We currently have 14 processes running on 22 robots, and we have another 5 processes going live in December. And we have many, many more processes in the pipeline or in development. But it's not all about labour savings. You know, we've reduced lead time, we've increased productivity. Staff that were performing the tasks that the robots now do are spending time on higher value tasks, including building more robots. This is helping Experian deliver our products and services faster and more efficiently. And the question I'm sometimes asked is, you know, what about the quality? We hear about, you know, RPA tends to not make mistakes if it's configured correctly. Well, for us, I mean, quality is something that we've always strived for. Many of our processes, we've removed the requirement for double work. So we'd have one person performing the task, we'd have a second person verifying that the first person had done the task correctly. So with RPA, we still want to monitor what's being done, but we have the robot produce a summary report so we can still verify what's been done, but in a fraction of the time. So we've kind of got a double whammy there of labour savings. We've got processes running in finance, we've got processes running in sales, marketing, consumer services and IT. We're building processes for procurement, legal and HR. The interest and adoption throughout Experian has been and is continuing to be phenomenal. And that's what I like about being part of Experian. You know, when open to new ideas and new ways of thinking. Obviously this must be done in a controlled manner. And companies that don't innovate or try new things, they get stuck in the past, they fall behind. And our aim is to provide the best services and products. And Automation Anywhere is just one of many parts in that ongoing journey. Thank you for your attention.